And a lot is at stake if the U.S. withdraws from its treaty obligations, especially for Europe, since the INF is designed to keep ground-based nuclear weapons off the continent. Let's take a closer look at the issue with Richard Weitz, director for the Center for Political Military Analysis at the Hudson Institute. Richard, welcome to the program. So what is going to happen if the United States goes ahead with threats and withdraws from this INF treaty? Is the United States at that point violating the terms of the deal by pulling out?
Right. So what the U.S. will do is will give formal notification as provided for in the treaty that it is withdrawing. So there would be no violation of the treaty because it would be formally be ended as provided for by the treaty. And then the next question is where they go from here. I mean, I thought your package gave a good background of what's happened in the past, but what we're trying to think about where to go next. So it's possible that they will agree to a new kind of treaty that might cover additional systems, additional countries, and build a better treaty. I think that's what the hope that might occur, and we'll have a better understanding if this is possible based on what happens in Beijing.
But would Moscow be up for something like that with the United States? I mean, each side is accusing the other of all kinds of things, in violating the terms of the agreement, not upholding their commitments.
Right. So I consider, I mean, it's clear this treaty itself, it's on its last legs because of the background you gave. But the Russians, even more than the Americans in the past, have said what we need is to rethink the way we're proceeding with arms control. In the past, it's always been Washington and Moscow agreeing to limit long-range nuclear systems. And the Russians have said we need to consider broadening it to cover other countries and additional kinds of systems. So I think that's the way we might be going. We might be considering a broader treaty would bring in China and some of the European countries. It would include some of the longer-range missiles, perhaps some shorter ones, and some other kinds of weapons that have the strategic potential, although not maybe nuclear armed.
So this two-day gathering in Beijing is now over. Your overall takeaway at what was accomplished and what was not?
Right. It's early, so we don't quite know. And the main focus of the meeting was actually not so much the treaty, which was a bit of a side issue, but thinking about how to strengthen the non-proliferation regime, which, as we know, limits other countries from getting nuclear weapons. The main concern there would have been Korea, and that I think we'll keep an eye out about what's going to happen.
Korea, DPRK.
Yeah. So what basically I think there, the China-U.S. dialogue is going to be very important. They talked about some other issues about transparency and so on, but that's the main thing I'd be interested to see what comes out. What did they agree about North Korea?
And Richard, the last time this conference was held, it was in 2016 in Washington. How much, in your opinion, has the conversation about nuclear issues changed since 2016?
That's a great point, and I think that some of the statements I've read have pointed out that fact that we really are in a different world. The relationship between Russia and the U.S. we thought would improve with President Trump's election. That has not occurred. And so we're sort of struggling how to retool the arms control environment. I mean, as I mentioned before, the thinking is the old Cold War structure isn't that useful anymore. So we need to think about where to go next. And I think they probably started that dialogue in Beijing as opposed to the Washington meeting, which was more traditionally focused on the P5 issues.
China says the current international security environment faces severe challenges. Can you quickly tell us about some of those big challenges that China is talking about? Sure.
I mean, there are unfortunately a myriad number of these. So the regional security challenges, Syria, Afghanistan, there are non-proliferation challenges, North Korea, Iran. They're the renewed great power tension, something that we saw in 2016, but is perhaps going to be even more tense between Russia, China, and the U.S. There are issues that China itself is particularly concerned about within the Asia-Pacific region. So it's definitely a very complex picture. So hopefully renewed China, U.S., Russian leadership can help resolve some of these issues.
At least the conversations are taking place. Richard Weitz, thank you so much.